Did you know that Elon Musk, one of the richest people in the world, is calling for sanctions against a South African politician? Over a video? Sounds crazy, right? But this isn't just a simple clash between two public figures. It's a reflection of a much deeper battle for Africa's sovereignty, race relations, and the power dynamics that shape our global world. Although this time Africa, or more specifically, Julius Malema is not backing down. But what is happening? Here, we would like to take a moment and thank you for supporting us and being a valued part of our strong community. And if you are not yet a member, we encourage you to join us and help build an even stronger community together. Let's get started. In a viral video that quickly grabbed international attention, South African politician Julius Malema made bold statements about the need for land redistribution and economic freedom, calling out the exploitation of Africa by foreign powers. In response, Elon Musk, the billionaire founder of Tesla and SpaceX, fired back by suggesting that Malema's actions were a threat to global stability and even called for sanctions against him. This heated exchange has sparked a global debate, drawing lines between the fight for African self-determination and the ongoing influence of Western elites in the continent's politics. This confrontation with Elon Musk has sparked global debate, sending shockwaves through social media and news outlets alike. What began as a controversial video on Malema's stance against foreign influence in Africa has now evolved into a fiery dispute between two powerful figures. In one corner, there's Elon Musk, an American billionaire with vast influence in tech, space, and beyond. On the other hand, Julius Malema, a fierce political leader from South Africa, is known for his unapologetic stance on land reform and the redistribution of wealth. What we're witnessing is more than just a clash between two men. It's a reflection of broader global power dynamics that stretch from Silicon Valley to the streets of Johannesburg. But what did Malema say to offend Musk? The controversy ignited after an old video resurfaced showing Malema chanting, "Kill the Boer, kill the farmer," at a rally. The video, which dates back to 2023, quickly went viral, with Musk condemning Malema's words on social media. The chant, once historically linked to Peter Mokaba, a former African National Congress ANC youth leader during the apartheid era, is rooted in the anti-apartheid struggle. However, in recent years, it has become a controversial rallying cry that many interpret as fueling racial tensions. In the video, Malema, leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters EFF, can be heard urging thousands of supporters to chant the slogan that has stirred significant backlash. Musk, who was born in Pretoria, South Africa, shared the clip on his X account, accusing Malema of calling for violence against white farmers in South Africa. Musk tweeted, "He is chanting 'Kill the white farmers' to a cheering stadium," emphasizing the alarming nature of the statement. The chant itself has been a source of division, with some, like Malema, claiming it's a metaphorical expression related to the historical struggle for land and racial equality. Others, however, interpret it as a direct incitement to violence against white South Africans. Malema's rhetoric has long been polarizing. As the leader of the EFF, South Africa's third largest political party, he advocates for radical policies like land nationalization and wealth redistribution, which resonate deeply with disenfranchised Black South Africans. These policies have garnered significant support, particularly among township residents who feel economically excluded despite the end of apartheid decades ago. During the EFF's 10th anniversary rally in 2023, Malema promised his supporters that the revolution in South Africa is guaranteed, further fueling tensions with his critics. The EFF leader has defended his use of the chant, claiming that it is a symbolic expression of the struggle against the systemic oppression of Black South Africans, not a call for literal violence. At a press conference, Malema fired back at Musk, accusing the billionaire of being illiterate and saying that the only thing that protects him is his white skin.
I must educate Elon Musk. Why must I educate Elon Musk? He looks like an illiterate. The only thing that protects him is his white skin.
Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. The clash between Musk and Malema, however, is more than just a dispute over a political slogan. It comes at a time of rising tensions between South Africa and Western powers, especially the United States. The controversy over land expropriation in South Africa, aimed at addressing racial imbalances in land ownership, has attracted harsh criticism from the West, including President Donald Trump. Trump threatened economic sanctions, including cutting future aid to South Africa, as well as implementing tariffs on BRICS nations should they move away from using the US dollar. These actions led to a sharp decline in the value of the South African rand against the dollar. Musk's intervention in the Malema debate is also seen as part of a broader pattern of foreign interference in African politics. His outburst, questioning why South African President Cyril Ramaphosa had not condemned Malema's words, touches on the delicate issue of foreign powers dictating what is and isn't acceptable in the domestic politics of sovereign nations. South Africa's approach to land reform has been a critical issue for years, with the ANC pushing for laws that facilitate land expropriation with equitable compensation. This is viewed by many as an attempt to right the wrongs of apartheid, which left black South Africans with little access to land and wealth. But for critics like Musk, these policies represent a dangerous turn, threatening the economic stability of the country and fueling racial divisions. In the larger context of global power dynamics, this exchange highlights a continuing struggle for African nations to assert their sovereignty in the face of foreign pressure. Malema's calls for land reform, though controversial, resonate with a growing sentiment in Africa that the continent needs to take control of its resources and future. However, as seen in the backlash from figures like Musk and Trump, this struggle is far from straightforward. The debate over land, race, and political power in South Africa is not just a local issue. It is a flashpoint in the global conversation about African sovereignty and the ongoing influence of Western powers in shaping the future of the continent. To understand the intensity of this clash, we need to first explore the heart of Malema's politics. Born from the deeply embedded inequalities of post-apartheid South Africa, Malema has become the face of resistance against the continued marginalization of black South Africans. His call for land expropriation without compensation isn't just about land. It's about economic freedom for millions who remain shackled by the economic legacy of colonialism and apartheid. Malema is fighting for the redistribution of wealth and power in South Africa, a battle that resonates across the African continent. His movement is rooted in a broader context of African liberation, echoing the struggles of independence movements in the mid-20th century. Historically, South Africa's black population has been denied the economic and political power they deserve, a condition that persists to this day. Malema's call for radical change through his Economic Freedom Fighters EFF party is an attempt to break this cycle and uplift the marginalized. His message is clear: Africa's wealth and resources must be shared more equitably among its people. So here is an important question. Who exactly is Elon Musk to demand sanctions on African leaders? Why does a billionaire from Silicon Valley think it's his place to meddle in Africa's political affairs? To understand this, we need to look beyond the surface of Elon Musk's entrepreneurial success and examine the broader context of his rise and the power structures that have allowed him to gain global influence. Elon Musk is no ordinary tech mogul. His rise to fame was fueled by an economy that is deeply rooted in global capitalism, a system that disproportionately benefits the elite while exploiting marginalized nations, especially those in Africa. Musk's wealth, derived largely from his leadership in companies like Tesla and SpaceX, is built on industries that, at their core, rely heavily on the extraction of resources. Many of the minerals that power his electric cars and rockets, such as cobalt, lithium, and nickel, are found in abundance across Africa. These countries, however, remain impoverished, with their resources largely controlled by foreign corporations and governments, leaving little to no benefit for the local populations. In Africa, countries rich in minerals, such as the Democratic Republic of Congo, Zambia, and South Africa, are some of the poorest on the planet. This stark contrast between the continent's wealth and natural resources and the widespread poverty is not coincidental. It is a product of centuries of exploitation under colonial rule, followed by modern-day neo-imperialism, where foreign powers and multinational corporations continue to extract Africa's resources with minimal regard for its people's well-being. Musk's companies, Tesla and SpaceX, are prime examples of how these global systems of resource extraction operate. While his companies innovate and amass billions, the mining of critical raw materials in Africa has often been linked to poor labor conditions, environmental degradation, and the continued disenfranchisement of local communities. So, when Musk demands sanctions against Julius Malema, a prominent African political leader calling for land redistribution and economic reform in South Africa, it's not just about the politician himself. Musk is defending a system that preserves the status quo, where the wealth extracted from African soil continues to flow to the West. Malema's calls for land expropriation without compensation, along with his broader platform advocating for economic freedom and wealth redistribution, challenge this very system. Musk's reaction is a direct reflection of the larger geopolitical forces at play, where Western elites use their power to influence African policies that might disrupt the flow of resources. Musk's ability to wield such influence, especially when it comes to demanding sanctions, is not merely a consequence of his wealth. It underscores the immense power Silicon Valley holds in shaping the future of nations, particularly those in the global South. With his massive public platform, Musk can sway public opinion, influence policy, and even push for economic sanctions from powerful countries like the United States. The reach of Silicon Valley extends far beyond the tech world. It touches every corner of global politics, including Africa, where Western companies and governments have historically exerted their dominance. The very systems that Musk benefits from, global capitalism, neoliberal economics, and resource extraction, have shaped Africa's relationship with the West for centuries. In many ways, Musk's criticism of Malema and his calls for sanctions are just another extension of this power. While Musk presents himself as a champion of progress and innovation, the reality is that his wealth is tied to a global order that perpetuates inequality, especially in Africa. By demanding sanctions against African leaders who challenge this system, Musk is defending the interests of a powerful elite, while maintaining a global structure that keeps African nations in a state of dependency. In this sense, Musk's intervention in South Africa's politics is not just a clash of personalities. It's a broader battle for control over Africa's resources, its political sovereignty, and its future. Musk's words carry weight because they reflect the interests of a global elite that has long dictated the terms of Africa's development. But as African leaders like Malema continue to challenge these dynamics, the question remains: will Africa continue to be a pawn in a global game? Or will it finally reclaim control over its destiny? And does the West have the moral authority to police African politics, especially when it comes to freedom of speech and racial justice? This question is at the core of the controversy between Malema and Musk. The West has long positioned itself as the global moral authority, often intervening in the internal affairs of African nations under the guise of human rights and justice. However, this approach is problematic when considering the long history of colonialism and exploitation that the West has inflicted on Africa. The reality is that many of the issues Africa faces today, racial inequality, economic struggles, and political instability, are rooted in centuries of Western domination. The imposition of Western values on African societies is not only hypocritical, but also dangerous. It undermines Africa's sovereignty and self-determination. By labeling Malema's calls for land reform and economic freedom as hate speech, Musk is aligning himself with a long history of foreign intervention that has never prioritized the needs of the African people. The West has historically disrupted Africa's path to self-governance, as seen in the disastrous interventions in Libya and the Congo, which were cloaked in the rhetoric of humanitarian aid, but ultimately served to further the West's geopolitical interests. So, are African leaders like Malema, who challenge the status quo and fight for racial justice, being unfairly labeled as criminals? The term international criminal is often thrown around in the world of geopolitics, used to delegitimize those who dare challenge the global order. This term has been used to label some of the most influential leaders in Africa, from Nelson Mandela to Muammar Gaddafi. The irony is undeniable. Many of the leaders who fought for justice and equality in Africa were once demonized by the West, but are now celebrated as heroes. Malema's critics in the West paint him as a threat, someone who must be silenced or punished for daring to stand up to global powers. But in reality, his stance is rooted in the same ideals that led to the liberation of many African nations: the fight for self-determination and justice. By labeling African leaders as criminals, the West attempts to undermine the legitimacy of their struggles. Malema's defiance is a direct challenge to a system that has historically denied Africans their right to control their land, resources, and destinies. Malema's defiance is undeniably bold, but it's also a reflection of the deep frustration many South Africans feel about the slow pace of change in their country. Malema has taken a hard stance on land reform, which has become one of the most contentious issues in South African politics. His refusal to compromise is seen as a challenge to the status quo, one that often protects the interests of the wealthy and powerful, both within South Africa and globally. Despite facing significant backlash, Malema has managed to mobilize a large segment of the South African population, particularly the youth, who see his message as a call to action. His EFF party, although controversial, has become a vehicle for those who feel that the promises of the post-apartheid government have not been fulfilled. Whether or not Malema can bring about the kind of sweeping changes he advocates for remains to be seen, but his leadership has already made a significant impact in shaping the national conversation around land, race, and economic justice.
Here is not a place where we are scared of a white man here. Here is the only liberated zone in South Africa. Here, no white man comes taking chances here. Those ones who came earlier, they must thank their God. They must try it again. They must thank their God. It's not a playful area here. You can argue your politics wherever you do. Don't come here. We never go to anyone's offices. We never interfere with anyone's programs. But we are not going to be undermined. We've got everything we need to protect this office. Everything. And we'll defend it with our lives.
One thing is clear. It's not Julius Malema who should be asked the tough questions. It's Elon Musk. Why should a billionaire from Silicon Valley have the audacity to interfere in African politics and demand sanctions against a leader who fights for his people's rights? Musk's wealth is built on the exploitation of Africa's resources, and his position represents the very system that continues to suppress the continent's economic and political freedom. The real question is, why does Musk think he has the moral authority to dictate Africa's future? Malema, on the other hand, is simply demanding what is rightfully Africa's. Do you think Musk is just using his power wrong? Who gave him this right? Let us know in the comments section. Who do you think is wrong here? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.